I would like to introduce our two special guests who we love having every year. First, we have Jason Wisha. Jason has served as Lake Forest City Manager since 2019. Prior to joining Lake Forest, Jason spent 5 years as the Assistant Village Manager for the Village of Skokie and served as the Village Administrator for the Village of Thornton for 7 years prior to that. He is active with the Lake County Municipal Conference and currently serves on both the Finance and Managers Committees with the Northwest Municipal Conference. He is also a member of the Metro Managers Board of Directors. Jason received his Bachelor of Arts degree from Skidmore College and a Master of Public Administration degree from Wayne State. He and his wife, Jessica, have 2 small children, and their family has happily settled in a part of the Lake Forest community and is part of the Lake Forest community. Jason. And Lake Bluff's Drew Irvin has proudly served as Lake Bluff's Village Administrator since January 1, 2008. Having previously served as Village Manager of Bannockburn and Assistant Village Administrator in Lamont. He has degrees from William Jewell College, University of Missouri St. Louis, and a certificate from Harvard's Senior Executives in State and Local Governments program. Among his many professional involvements, Drew currently serves as the Board President of the Illinois City-County Management Association Executive Board, Secretary of the North Suburban Benefit Cooperative, Board Chair of the Joint Public Safety Dispatch Emergency Telephone System Board, Vice President of the Government IT Cooperative, is on the Lake County Solid Waste Board of Directors, and lest he be considered a slacker, he also has served as Executive Board Chair for IRMA, the Intergovernmental Risk Management Agency. We're so proud and so happy to invite both of these gentlemen to come forward and tell their tale to us.
For being here to join us this morning. Also take the chance to thank Joanna and her staff for putting this entire event together. Everyone in this room knows that there are no greater ambassadors or cheerleaders for our 2 communities than Joanna and her team. So thank you guys for a job well done. And I, of course, just want to thank all of you as well. We say it, I think, every year we come here, but our business communities really represent the lifeblood of ensuring the vibrancy and vitality of our 2 towns. And so for everything that you guys do to make Lake Forest and Lake Bluff such amazing communities, thank you for everything. And with that, we have a fair amount to share. We have tried our best to try to trim it down this year. We do want to be mindful of everyone's time, but we also have a lot of great stories to share, so we're going to try to keep this presentation fairly high level. Hopefully we'll have some time left at the end for any questions that you guys have. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to my friendly neighbor to the north to walk through some of the topics that we'll be discussing today.
And for all our differences, it's great that we get along so well. Right? We're so different, so different. No, I just want to echo what Jason said. Building on the ambassadorship role that the Chamber plays for both communities. Everybody here, I think Jason and I, we prepare our messages every year to help fill your heads with information so you guys can go out there and be truth tellers and help feel good about our community and share all the good news. So please pay close attention. There's a lot riding on this. So we're going to try to cover, as Jason said, he's more of a thoroughbred, I'm more of a Clydesdale, but we're going to get through these finance updates, state of the village, state of the city, capital initiatives. We're going to talk a little bit about real estate. There's a lot of realtors in the room, so help us tell that story. We're going to do a little bit of bragging about our central business districts and then talk about some planning initiatives.
I know as Lake Forest, we always love to talk finances, and I know part of that is because we have such a great story to tell. I'm not going to bore the room with fund accounting today. I'm going to keep it high level, but in short, the overall fiscal health of the city remains remarkably strong. You can see on the slide that we have a balanced budget for the current fiscal year. We're in the midst of planning for our upcoming fiscal year that begins on May 1. But beyond that, I think it's important to just note that really every financial indicator one could look at paints a very positive story for the city. We have very strong reserves that we maintain. We have low debt levels and debt loads, and have also made a point to aggressively repay any debt that exists to minimize interest payments. We have a very diversified revenue portfolio that helps us minimize any risk in the future when there are downturns in the economy. And one of the things that we take a lot of pride in is our aggressive strategies to proactively address long-term financial liabilities and obligations. And I say that specifically regarding public safety pension funding and infrastructure investment. I'll spend a lot more time in a few minutes talking about infrastructure, but we're very proud of the job we're doing there. And we are able to do all of this while providing exceptional quality services to the community, while at the same time maintaining the lowest tax rate in Lake County, which is something we take a lot of pride in bragging about. So at a high level, I will just say that not only are we in a strong financial position today, but as we look out into the future over the next couple of years, the outlook remains just as bright. And really that is a testament to the fiscal stewardship of our mayor and city council, along with the leadership of our finance director, Elizabeth Holub, and her team. So we're really happy to share that story. And as we look forward, the sun is shining in Lake Forest.
Let me get into some details of fund accounting. Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, again, similarly situated, fiscally very strong. Like Jason said, for the city of Lake Forest, this goes back to leadership over the years. The village has fiscal plans, multiple year, 10-year capital plan, and this has not been an accident. The village, when I first got there in January of 2008, we had 55 regular full-time employees. We had part-time employees and so forth, but today, providing same level of services, high level, white glove government service, down to 34. So we're doing that. That was a conscious effort to take money, revenue streams that the village receives, put them in capital bucket, and try to take them out of the operations bucket. So that's been a conscious effort over the years. And due to some very wise land use decisions over the years, the village has increased its revenue streams. You can see that here. I think I usually show the sales tax trend in the village, which is trending very well, despite an economic downturn into COVID. But you can see the growth of revenues over time, and it's positioned the village well to invest in its capital, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Great. Well, we have a video we're going to show, and hopefully this doesn't mean no one's paying any attention to everything I say for the next 2 minutes. That highlights some of the capital projects that were completed over the course of the last fiscal year. And as I had said, we're right now experiencing record levels of capital investments in the current fiscal year, which ends April 30th. We'll have invested over $18 million in infrastructure improvements, and we have planned just over $20 million in additional infrastructure improvements for the upcoming fiscal year. And importantly, I want to note that all of these investments are coming without the issuance of debt. Our finance chair, Jed Morris, working with the city council, have really done a tremendous job in developing a strong pay-as-you-go model for financing capital improvement projects. And I think that's also been supplemented by aggressive efforts by our city staff to obtain additional grant funding. Over the last 3 fiscal years, we've been able to obtain about $9 million in outside grant funding, and that really allows us to stretch our dollars further as a city. And so highlighting a couple of the projects that occurred over the last fiscal year, and many of these will be familiar to you because we do recognize it was a bit of a disruptive year, but the Burr Oak area storm sewer improvement project, that was about a $5 million project and had been identified as the most critical stormwater issue in our community. That was completed up on Northwestern Avenue. The pedestrian bridge replacements at both Illinois and Woodland were both completed this year. Both of those bridges are part of the Robert McClory Bike Trail and should last us for about another 30 years. Town Line Park Splash Pad is another one I love to highlight. We've heard a lot of suggestions, if you will, from residents on the west side of town about wanting to have water features and amenities, and we were really pleased to be able to install that. We had significant sand replenishment at Forest Park Beach to help mitigate some of the recent erosion that we've been experiencing due to high lake levels. And then as we look forward to the upcoming fiscal year, some planned projects that are really important to us. We have a significant Forest Park Bluff stabilization project. This will ensure the long-term stability of the bluff over by the beach for really the next 50 plus years. It's addressing the middle section of the beach, if you will, or the bluff just above the beach, with both the south and north areas above the parking lots already been stabilized over the last few years. That's going to be about a $4 million project for us, but is scheduled to begin after the beach season ends, probably in October of this year. We have another large stormwater project coming. As you can tell, and as both of our communities talk about regularly, stormwater is such a critical need. Awani Road Storm Sewer Project. This is south of Deer Path Road and in between Green Bay and 41, if you will. That's about a $4 million stormwater improvement project. We have significant ravine improvement projects that are occurring on the east side of Lake Forest, and our network of ravines are not only part of the natural beauty of Lake Forest, but they also play a critical role as part of our stormwater management network. Almost all stormwater east of Green Bay ultimately is diverted through our network of ravines before discharging into Lake Michigan, so we have several of those coming. We have a large water main replacement coming on Sir William Lane. We have about $1.5 million in street resurfacing planned in various areas throughout the community. We're resurfacing and expanding the parking lot out at Elowa Farm, which is in rough shape and continues to have strains on the amount of available parking, at least depending on the events that are happening out there. So as you can see, we have a lot of different asset categories that we're responsible for maintaining, but the City Council does a really good job of sprinkling the available resources around to ensure all of our asset categories are being addressed. And so it's going to be another busy year for us. And I should note, of the $20 million that I referenced budgeted right now for capital improvements this year, that does not include any potential improvements to athletic fields at Deer Path Park. Some of you know that is a topic that's being contemplated by the City Council. We'll know more probably in the next couple of months whether that's a project that will proceed or not, but that would be funded independently from all of the other projects that I just mentioned.
Similarly, last summer was very busy in Lake Bluff with water main replacement, sanitary sewer lining work. The village replaced, like Lake Forest, I don't know what the bridge, we must have installed our bridges all in the same time frame. We ended up replacing a ped bridge over Sheridan Road. And the village has been operating on a plan to chip away at its infrastructure. I just wanted to share this slide with you all, and I'll focus on stormwater because that's the number one issue for us. But you know, transportation, the village is trying to have a steady level investment in our system. We have been investing in our roads at a high level, the highest it's been in years. And in fact, this year the village will be investing $1 million in its roadway system, which is the biggest investment ever for the community. And last year we had a huge investment in our pathway system. So our transportation networks are going to be improved this year, and that's the village following its strategic plan, which was a community-generated document that the community told the village, hey, you need to assess your infrastructure, invest in it, or divest it. And so it's common sense, but that's what the village has been doing on a steady rate. And Jason talked about pay-as-you-go method. I'll get into this a little bit more about the stormwater, but that's something that every community struggles with, is what is the right rhythm or pace to invest in its infrastructure, because a lot of these problems started decades ago by different generations. So why should one generation burden themselves with trying to cure a problem overnight, right? So that's always finding that sweet spot of borrowing and paying as you go. And everybody struggles with that. Water, the village is going to be replacing a small section of water main. And we're dealing with unfunded mandates of dealing with replacing lead service lines as we go now. And that's a new issue we're addressing, and I've already picked that up a couple of times. Stormwater. So last night, the village held its first of 3 information sessions about the possibility of starting a stormwater utility. So what's a stormwater utility? Well, just like the village's water infrastructure system, we buy water from CLC Jawa, we store it in a water tank, and we sell it to our residents, and we maintain all the transmission mains and the meters, and that functions as a standalone entity or utility. So the village is looking to do the same thing with stormwater, because as you can see here on this table, it is solely funded by general fund activities, and there's just not enough money to go around, knowing that we're seeing these 100-year storms on a much more frequent basis, right? These high-intensity storm events are occurring on a more regular basis, and our infrastructure is just not built to transmit that much water that quickly. So the village is taking this on. The village board has been very careful and deliberate in this process. It's been about 2 years, and they've been studying this issue, and the village has settled on the stormwater utility method to help fund this activity, and it's very common. It's done all across the US, very common in Illinois, in fact, but it's a way to do it. It's much more surgical in its application. It's not a property tax. It's focused, the way the village has designed this system, it's built around your zoning district, and your properties are placed in buckets based off how your property can be developed in terms of how much impervious surface your property can build out. And so there's some logic to it, and it is something that I think the village board members that were present last night at the first hearing heard that people understand it. I mean, they're dealing with flooding. It's a long time issue, so people understand it, and they just want to understand what the village's build out would look like if the village did, in fact, generate this new revenue, which would float a bond to fund these expensive infrastructure improvements. And so there's a lot of support for it, at least at first blush. But the board, I know they're going to continue to study this and try to find and ensure that it's the best and appropriate method to try to address this issue. Everybody loves to talk about sanitary sewers. I, for one, big fan. Nothing too crazy going on there, but the village has infrastructure that we have to maintain, and we're doing a lining project next month, in February, and we just finished rebuilding about 100 manholes related to our sanitary sewer system. But interestingly, you probably know this, but the sanitary and storm sewer issues are related, right? The idea that sanitary sewers get infiltrated with stormwater, and so the better we can build a stormwater system, it'll also improve our sanitary system. So there's double benefits there.
So real estate, I think I don't have to tell anyone in this room that it's been quite a couple of years here since COVID happened. As you can see on the screen here, speaking for Lake Forest, we've had over 1,500 new families that have moved into the community over the last couple of years. I know we have a lot of realtors in the room, so certainly it has kept you and your offices busy. Busy is good, and that's a great story for us. We have begun to see in monitoring our transfer tax data that the volume of activity has started to slow this year. That is not surprising, in part because inventory remains very low, or at this point is very low in both of our communities. The flip side of that, as you can see from the graph, is that as inventory has slowed, with demand still remaining very high, the average sales price of homes in our community has grown pretty considerably. So based on the transfer tax that we track and monitor with the city, the average sales price of a residential home this year is just under $1.3 million. By contrast, just a couple of years ago, that was about $850,000. So I'm sure if you have any realtors at the table, they may have already whispered to you and asked whether you're interested in putting your home on the market. If you are, it's a good time to do so. But a great story for homeowners in the community. We really are seeing a significant increase in the value of homes in Lake Forest that had been fairly stagnant and depressed going all the way back to the recession in 2008, and really exciting for us. So one of the things I will note is that we're having a lot of internal conversations about how do we engage all of these new families moving into the community? We like to think we know why they came. Our mayor, George Pandeleon, famously references the 4 S's of safety, schools, space, and savings, and I'd like to believe that those are what have drawn a lot of young families here. And as a fairly new resident to the community myself, I certainly understand why one would want to relocate to Lake Forest to raise your family. But we want to hear from them. What's important to them? What do they want out of the community? And so one of the things we'll be doing starting this spring is engaging in a comprehensive community-wide survey to better understand the priorities of our residents, their level of satisfaction with services, where there are things we could be doing things a little differently. And so we look forward to gathering that information.
Gentleman sitting at my table this morning, how many houses are available in Lake Bluff right now?
19.
19. Feels like 3. Yeah. So I think I would put forth to you, Jason, the reason why people have been moving to Lake Forest is because they can't find a house in Lake Bluff. Could be true.
If they can afford us.
Could be true. Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad. Not a surprise, people. Not a surprise. Eventually, I'll let Jason just do it to himself. I don't have to stay at his. I don't, and realtors help me out. So the average sales price in Lake Bluff is like shockingly close to $1 million, average home price for last calendar year. Is that an all-time high?
As high as I recall.
Yeah, and I don't know that we've ever been that close to Lake Forest home pricing. I mean, honestly, it's shocking. But average days on the market hasn't moved, close to 60 days still. Dollar of closed volume, this gives you an idea, right? There's very few houses trading, but there's super high dollars. And the closed sales is down just because there's just no inventory. So that's our problem. Nobody wants to leave. I don't know if it's our problem as much as the realtor's problem. So yeah, I mean, that's another great story to tell. And I think that's what I hear. And again, the realtors talking, Lake Bluff, it's fun. It's a great place to come and raise a family. It's just a great place to be and a special place to be, and I can't argue. I've done it. I've raised my family there, and it's fantastic. So,
great. Well, as many of you know, we are in the process of updating the city's comprehensive plan and are currently looking at the Central Business District chapter. And for those that don't know, our comprehensive plan is really the guiding land use document that is intended to drive decisions over the next couple of decades in what we want to see and what our vision is for the Central Business District. And as we think about the future of the CBD, Lake Forest, we know who we are. The fundamental character of our business district is not going to change, but we do think it's important to take the opportunity to think about what might be, what could be. We know that there are opportunity sites, and to do that successfully, to have that conversation, it's really important for us to get feedback from the community. And so I've included up on the slide there some data about community engagement efforts to date. And I want to give a plug to our Director of Community Development, Kathy Zerniak, and her team for really thinking about some creative ways to connect with the community on this. While we continue to have in-person workshops, and you can see some of the data there, we know that the 3-hour in-person forum on a Wednesday night is not always going to be practical for a lot of residents. And so we've developed a website that allows for interactive comments. So far, we've had over 2,500 visits to that. It's an interactive map. If you haven't been to it yet, I encourage you to do so. You can provide comments on any aspect of the Central Business District. You can actually comment on other people's comments if you want to make it really more of a community conversation. And I think it's been a very useful tool for us. There's a lot more to come. In terms of kind of the current state of the process, there is a working group, a resident working group that is looking to develop recommendations that will go to city staff. Those are informed by what we're hearing from the community, and after that is wrapped up, probably in the next month, I think is fair to say, the staff recommendations will go to our Plan Commission. That will be deliberated for some time before the Plan Commission ultimately brings recommendations to the City Council. At each one of those stages, there will be additional opportunity for public comment, and we want to hear from the community. So, in terms of what we're hearing as we engage with the community on this, I've got a few highlights up there. But building on the strengths and traditions of the business district, preserving and protecting our character, encouraging a variety of uses. We know we can't sustain the business district just on retail alone. Demand is evolving, and so having more variety in uses is important to the long-term success and vitality of the business district. Recognizing opportunities, establishing design parameters. It's important for us to set realistic expectations for developers on what we want to see, whether it's building materials, height, massing, setbacks. Letting developers know in advance what it is that's important to us helps streamline the process, and we want to ensure that developers understand, if they're interested in coming to Lake Forest, what they can expect and what it is we want to see. But we also want to make sure that it's balanced too. We understand that development does have to be economically feasible for developers. Otherwise, we'll see sites, opportunity sites, sit underutilized or vacant, for many years. We don't want that either. And so balance is always key to ensuring our success. Some of the other themes you can see at the bottom: do not overbuild. Invest more in infrastructure, adapting to the uniqueness, maybe looking at opportunities for additional outdoor space for people to congregate in and around the central business district. So again, these are themes we're hearing from all of you. This is a community-driven process. We always like to say it's your town. You determine the future direction of the community. And so for those of you who have been engaged, we thank you. For those that have not been engaged, please do get engaged. There's a lot of opportunity for additional comment, and we look forward to seeing what the results are as it makes its way ultimately to the City Council in the months ahead.
I will try to sprint through this since it's already close to 9. So Jason talked about listening to the community. The village did that. We recently rebuilt a large section of our central business district. Everybody is enjoying it, loving it, and so we're looking, can we do the same on Block 1? We're calling it Block 1 Light because pricing has gone up so much in the construction world. We're trying to say, hey, can we build something that looks like the concept plan, which is opening up the street as much as we can, widening the sidewalk, again, creating more spaces for building of community and multi-generational spaces. So that's one thing we're looking at this year. Expanded entertainment hours. When I first came to the village of Lake Bluff, I think I could have taken a nap in the middle of Scranton Avenue at 5 o'clock and not worry about it. Now the village just recently updated its regulations saying, okay, you got to turn the lights off at 11 outside, and on weekends, that's during the weekend, on the weekends, midnight, because people have to sleep. So it's a very different, fun place in our central business district, and looking forward to having another great summer this year and enjoying that. Jason talked about design review, looking at design. Lake Bluff, I think, has a thoughtful process when we review new projects coming through the Village Hall. And one of the things that the Village Board just approved was, hey, some of these mundane things, some of these lesser important issues, let's not make them go through these onerous processes, and let's let them go through a different process that can maybe be done administratively or at the Architectural Board review, but let's try to find different steps so things go quicker for our business community and it's not as painful. So the board said, yes, let's do that. That was recently approved. I talked a little bit about special events. This year is the 30th anniversary of the Lake Bluff Farmers Market. Hard to believe that, but that was started as a way to draw people in our downtown, not a problem now, which has led to parking study problems. We're trying to figure out, hey, everybody wants to be in the downtown during certain times and on certain blocks. So we've updated our recent study. Back, I think it was 2014 was the first time it was done. This summer we updated that. And again, a COVID silver lining is that the village relies on its train station to support our central business district parking. And we all know what's happening with the RTA and Metro. It's not a lot of good news there. So our parking opportunities have grown. Actually, when the village rebuilt its downtown, we added some stalls. So Village is trying to be mindful of its parking inventory, but the good news is we're picking up spaces. So.
Great, and then I think this is our last topic, but development highlights. It's been a really busy year in Lake Forest. Looking first at residential, we've had 30, or I should say going into the last year, 30 new single-family homes. For any perspective, that's, I think I'll look at Kathy, I think 8. 8 is about what we average. Most of these are occurring out on the west side of town at Amberley Court or Oak Knoll subdivision, but we have had some infill in East Lake Forest as well. In fact, I think the picture at the very top there is a new construction that's happening on the former Swift Estate property just north of Triangle Park in East Lake Forest. You can see the picture below that is the second condominium building that is being built out at Amberley Woods. That's a 42-unit condo building. It mirrors in terms of construction style and materials the first building that was constructed about a decade ago, but obviously demand is such that they have moved forward with building the second condo building. Senior cottages, this is something that just came before our city council and is really a tremendous success story for us. One of the issues we have long struggled with as a city is ensuring that we have enough diversity in our housing stock to allow people to age in place in the community. We have a lot of large single-family homes, and as people get to a certain age, they may no longer have the means, interest, or desire to maintain, a 5,000-6,000 square foot home. What housing stock do we have available to allow them to remain in the community that they've been in for decades? And so we're moving forward with 12 senior cottages that are age restricted that should have final approvals within the next 2 months. I'm looking at Kathy again for a head nod. And these are located right over by our West Side Business District on Everett Road, right near Telegraph. Really exciting for us. We are hoping to perhaps partner with Lake Bluff as part of that too. And I bring that up for the whole group to hear so I can extract more out of Drew in financial negotiations in the next couple of weeks. But really an exciting project for us. And looking at restaurants in the commercial side, as you can see, and most of you are well aware, hopefully many of you have been patrons at some of our new restaurants, while not forgetting those that have been here for many years too. But we've had a lot of activity with new restaurants coming in, and they really span varying price points, menu styles. It's something for everybody. I think word is out now amongst hospitality groups that the market is strong enough to sustain significant investment in restaurants. One of the real challenges we have now is just finding additional space that's available. We don't have a lot of turnkey spaces for restaurants. Build-outs of kitchens can become very expensive, so the demand is there. There's an excitement within the hospitality industry. I think it's been really wonderful for the community, and hopefully there's more to come. You can see at the bottom a little logo for Hometown Juice and Coffee. They, for those who aren't familiar with it, they have locations in Winnetka and Glencoe. Also, I believe will be a phenomenal addition to our community. Should open probably within the next couple of months in the former Caputo space. And then lastly, I just want to note, because I do know we have a representative here, for those that don't know, the hospital is planning significant work on their campus. Really a wonderful problem for us that it's been so successful that they're really bursting at the seams out there. And so the addition of parking through the construction of a garage has already begun and should continue throughout the year. Pending state regulatory approval on increasing bed capacity, the plan is to begin constructing several new pavilions along the south side of the hospital, wrapping around the pond, if you will, on the front of the building there. And again, pending some state approvals, work scheduled to begin probably towards the end of the calendar year.
Lake Bluff, we always like to be the head of the superlative list and everything. I have to admit to Jason, he talks about, we're the lowest property taxes in Lake County. Well, Lake Bluff, we were on the medal stand. We got the silver. But I will say one thing that we certainly tip our hat to for the city is diversified housing product. The city has done a remarkable job in doing that over the years, and Lake Bluff struggles with that issue. It comes up in our strategic planning sessions, and who knows, is this the year Stonebridge gets redeveloped? Don't know. Not a lot of happening there at the moment. It's been marketed, but not a lot of activity there. Block 3, who knows? There's lots to talk, but nothing to show for it. So that's something that the village is going to continue to look at. I know it's important to the board. Other things important to the village board, Choose Lake Bluff, that's a historic preservation program that's incentive-based, not regulatory. We're not going to say you can't do something, but we're going to incentivize you to do certain things. The village has just created a property tax rebate for its village property tax for new landmarks. Also have cut the building permit fees if you have a landmark, 100%. So it's quite a remarkable incentive program, so we'll see how that shakes out. The village has literally just approved that and will be monitoring that over the years. I'm going to try to sprint through here again. 41176 interchange project. It's in the multi-year plan for IDOT. It is not imminent. They are stuck in a purgatory of phase 2. They have to acquire property, they have to finish plans, but they're also dealing with a pump issue. It's a procurement problem, but long story short, it's coming. Don't count on it soon. Commercial franchise, probably 6 years ago, I was giving a presentation, talked about a commercial franchise. The village went through the legal process to offer a commercial franchise in our community. The village did that in November of last year, instituted it. It's all in place now. And the village did it for the purpose of sustainability and the idea, hey, let's try to increase recycling. And we probably will save our businesses some money. Well, we know we saved them money. But interesting enough, this is my official finger wag to the Lake Bluff business community. We only bumped up recycling by 5% and it's free. So we're going to work on that in the coming months to try to figure out how we can elevate that a little more. The village's planned residential district code, that is, the village just updated its zoning code to, that's the zoning tool that the village will use more than likely to develop properties like Stonebridge in the future. And so we wanted to be sure that the village's goals, some sustainable, some design-oriented, reflected in those codes to result in projects that the village wants to see. So that was a 2-year process that just ended. The village is on the verge of updating its comprehensive land use plan, just like they talked about Lake Forest. We're going to hope that everybody gets involved in that. The board will probably award that to a planning firm here in the next 30 days. So get ready to come to some public meetings. Gas-powered leaf blower regulations. That's another COVID hangover issue. People working at home for the last 2 years, like, this is so loud. So the village was part of a multiple municipal study group. Spent a year studying that. That's in front of our Sustainability and Community Enhancement Committee. The village board referred it to them to study. I suspect there may be some new regulations coming down the pike with that, probably a seasonal ban, sort of during the summer. Hey, you can't use them now, and so we'll see where that leads. Probably the biggest news for the summer is that the South Beach at Lake Bluff Beach will be closed this summer. The North Shore Water Reclamation District is constructing a overflow basin. So in the events of catastrophic power failure, that right now, if the backup generator doesn't work, sewage spills into the lake. Everybody agrees that's bad. So been working on this for years also, but finally coming to a head that they're going to start that work very soon. It'll take about 18 months. And the goal is to get the beach back open by Memorial Day of 2024. The North Beach will be open and accessible, but just the South Beach will be closed. But it's going to be busy, loud, and noisy, and a little messy. So you've been warned.
Okay, well, I do have a few questions. I guess they're all coming my way, Drew. Yeah, exactly. We have an engaged group. So I have, I think, about 5 of them here, and I'm going to just rattle through. Yeah. They're all asking about how we can make things even better when things are so great in Lake Forest. That's a fair question to ask. But so first question is specific to improving crosswalks along Deer Path, I think specifically in proximity to the library. Certainly we are looking at that this year. We have heard feedback that the parking lot available just across the street to the south of the library is underutilized in part because people don't like crossing the street there at Deer Path, and we understand the safety concerns, looking into better solutions for that. Second question, when will the new pump station be fully operational? A good question to ask. I assure you, no one is more concerned about not having that thing flood come April than me and the city staff. The simple fact is, for those that aren't aware, all of the infrastructure work in terms of underground upsizing of pipes, the construction of the lift station underground, it is all complete. At this point, similar to the theme you hear about everything else, there are some supply chain issues with a very small control panel that allows the pumps to kick on automatically. They can be controlled manually, so if we need to send someone over to flip a switch, we will do that. But we hope that we are confident at this point that at least manually, if we're doing it the old analog way, we'll still be able to have the pumps functioning come springtime when the rains start to hit. A couple other questions. One about any concerns about tenancy out in the Conway Farms office park. It's something we monitor very closely. No question, COVID has had a significant impact on the commercial real estate market, and particularly with office space, out in the suburbs. Although I think we're doing better than what you see downtown in Chicago. Right now, we are seeing some entities out there that have downsized a bit and consolidated space. The good news is that those that are out there, I think will be staying for some time. We're not seeing an exodus out of the park, but certainly we have a lot of conversations. We work with entities like Lake County Partners and the county itself to think about how we can continue to be an attractive destination. We really have a lot of high quality Class A office space out there. And so right now we're holding steady. We're probably doing better than most out there, but it is a fluid situation, and there is uncertainty about what the future of office space is going to look like in the next couple of years, and we'll have to see how that shakes out. Running through.
Isn't Deerfield, they're converting a very large office building to a warehouse?
To Amazon warehouse space. And that is something that we're seeing throughout the region. I'm confident that is not going to be a viable solution here in Lake Forest. I don't think you have to worry about Amazon warehouses anytime soon, but no question, it's a challenge for a lot of communities. Next question, are the Bears at risk of leaving if they relocate a new stadium to Arlington Heights? While I can't speak in certainties and don't have a crystal ball, we have no concerns that would happen. The Bears invested a lot of money several years ago, several $100 million to upgrade Hallis Hall and all of the facilities out there. I won't speculate as to what the likelihood is of the Bears building a new stadium in Arlington Heights, but for those who have seen the plans and are a bit familiar with sort of trends that are happening in the sports industry, professional sports teams that are building new stadiums are looking at building entertainment districts when possible around those stadiums to create more year-round revenue-generating opportunities. Having front office operations, practice facilities, while yes, would consolidate operations for the overall organization, don't generate any revenue. And so we have no concerns about the Bears leaving. We're very proud to call the Chicago Bears, one of our partners in the community, and proud for them to call Lake Forest home, and we expect that to continue for many, many years to come. And then last question, new restaurants in Lake Forest, are any traffic studies being done to understand the impacts of additional patrons and how it impacts some of the unusual intersections in town? And I will say to that one, we're learning as we go a little bit. This is a great problem for us to have. It's a far cry from even 2 years ago or even pre-COVID, when you could drive through downtown Lake Forest at 6, 7 o'clock at night and the parking lots were completely empty and there wasn't a lot of foot traffic out there. So part of the work being done through the Central Business District Comprehensive Plan update is looking at traffic, is looking at parking to better understand how changing uses within the business district impact the ability to get around, whether it's walkability or vehicular traffic and parking. But I'll say again, a really great problem for us to have, and we hope to continue to build on that vibrancy so we continue to have the difficult conversations about how we accommodate parking or how we're accommodating additional traffic into the business district.
Thank you. We enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys.
Gentlemen, thank you so, so much. They are rock stars in our world, both in their presentation style and also in the way they facilitate these accomplishments. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and have a wonderful year. We look forward to seeing you often. Thank you.